In today's video, we witness a showdown that could have gone any number of ways, but the outcome? Well, let's just say this guy absolutely owned these cops. With no ID, no fear, and an unshakable understanding of his rights, he stood his ground in a way that left these officers scratching their heads. Watch as the tension builds. Every question they throw, every attempt they make to control the situation, only seems to backfire. It's a masterclass in how to handle a First Amendment audit, and you won't believe how smoothly it all plays out. But just when it seems like the cops might finally get frustrated enough to escalate, something happens that flips the script. What's coming next? Stay tuned for the surprising twist that will leave you questioning who's really in control. This is a First Amendment audit like you've never seen before. As the scene unfolds, the tension between the individual and the officers grows. The man, calm yet assertive, isn't backing down. The officers, clearly out of their element, can't seem to understand why he's refusing to comply. It's not like they haven't seen ID refusals before, but something about this guy is different. He's articulate, confident, and knows the law better than they do. The officers keep circling back to the same questions, trying to corner him, but each time, he shuts them down with ease. There's a mix of frustration in their voices, but also something else: uncertainty. They're not used to being challenged like this. Every time they try a different tactic, it feels like they're digging themselves into a deeper hole. The more they try to exert authority, the more he reminds them that their power is not absolute. It's a standoff that could go in any direction, and the officers are running out of options. The officers try to remain professional, but it's clear they're starting to crack under the pressure. One of them suggests that the man is acting suspicious, a typical move when they don't know what else to say. The man doesn't flinch. He calmly asks what part of standing in public with a camera is suspicious, reminding them that they have no right to demand his identification unless they have a legal reason. The officer shifts his stance, trying to regain control, but his words come out less certain now. The other officer, younger and perhaps less experienced, seems uncomfortable with the whole situation. He glances nervously at his partner, as if looking for reassurance. But the senior officer is too focused on trying to justify their presence to back down. A crowd starts to gather, drawn by the tension. Some people are watching, while others pull out their phones, recording the interaction. It's clear the officers know they're under the microscope, but that only seems to make them more defensive. Meanwhile, the man remains composed, addressing the crowd with a quiet but firm tone. He explains his rights, educating those around him on the importance of standing up against unlawful requests. The officers, now realizing the situation could escalate in a way they can't control, exchange a few whispered words, trying to figure out what to do next. But with each passing second, the man's confidence only grows. The suspense is thickening. Will the cops make a move, or will they continue to falter under the pressure? The atmosphere thickens as the seconds tick by, and the tension between the officers and the man reaches a boiling point. The younger officer starts pacing, his hand hovering near his radio, clearly uncertain. It's obvious he's considering calling for backup, but he's hesitant. The crowd has grown larger now, murmurs circulating as people shift, eager to see how this will play out. Some are beginning to whisper that the officers might be in over their heads. The man notices the shift in the crowd's energy and locks eyes with a few people, subtly reassuring them with a nod. He knows that whatever happens next, the public is watching, and that might be his biggest advantage. The senior officer finally steps forward, his voice a little sharper now. "You're not getting away with this. You're obstructing justice," he says, a thinly veiled threat. But the man's response is unwavering, even more resolute. "I'm not obstructing anything. I'm exercising my rights," he retorts calmly. his words cutting through the tension like a knife. It's clear that the officers are losing control of the situation, but they don't want to back down now. The senior officer's eyes dart around, as if searching for a way to regain the upper hand. He gestures to his partner, and the younger officer steps closer, nervously asking if they should escalate things further. The crowd's eyes are all on them, and every move they make feels like it could either diffuse the situation or make it spiral out of control. Then, just as the standoff seems to reach its peak, the sound of sirens grows louder in the distance. Backup is on the way. But will it help the officers, or will it only make things worse? The man stands firm, the weight of the moment hanging in the air. The crowd waits, holding its breath, unsure of what will happen next. The sirens grow louder, but as the backup approaches, something unexpected happens. Just as everyone anticipates the arrival of reinforcements, the man takes a step back, raising his hands in a calm gesture, signaling he's done nothing wrong. But before anyone can process what's going on, the senior officer makes an abrupt decision. He steps forward aggressively and reaches for the man's arm. It's a move that catches everyone by surprise. The crowd gasps, and for a moment, it feels like everything could unravel. The younger officer, clearly nervous, watches in shock as his partner escalates the situation. He hesitates, torn between his instinct to intervene and the fear of making things worse. The senior officer's hand is now inches from the man's arm, but in one swift move, the man steps back, avoiding the officer's grasp, and immediately calls out, "You're touching me without cause. This is illegal." His voice echoes across the growing crowd, and for a moment, it feels like time has stopped. The air is electric, charged with anticipation. The sirens are nearly upon them, and the tension is unbearable. The backup squad pulls up just as the officer hesitates, unsure whether to escalate or retreat. But before they can get out of their vehicles, the situation takes yet another turn. The younger officer, suddenly realizing how badly things are spiraling, makes a decision that no one saw coming. He walks up to his partner, places a hand on his shoulder, and quietly whispers something that shifts the dynamics of the scene. The crowd is on edge, phones still rolling, capturing every moment of this standoff. The officer's every move feels scrutinized, and now, with the backup squad waiting in the wings, the question lingers. Will the officers back down, or will they make a dangerous move that could change everything? The stakes have never been higher, and the outcome is more uncertain than ever. The tension reaches a breaking point as the younger officer's whisper seems to diffuse the situation, at least momentarily. The senior officer, visibly frustrated, pulls back, his hand lingering in the air before slowly lowering. The backup squad, still idling at the curb, watches the scene unfold in eerie silence. The senior officer's shoulders tense, and it's clear he's trying to salvage what little control he has left. He takes a deep breath, glances at his partner, and then turns back to the man. "We're letting you go for now," he says, his voice tight, but surprisingly calm. "Just know we're keeping an eye on you." He's clearly trying to hold on to some semblance of authority, but the words feel hollow. The man doesn't flinch. He simply nods and turns to walk away, leaving the officers standing there, unsure of what to do next. The crowd exhales collectively, some of them nodding in approval, others silently questioning the entire exchange. But just as the man is about to leave, the backup officers, who had been silently watching from their squad cars, begin to get out of their vehicles. One of them, a tall officer with a stern face, strides toward the group. The man pauses, his instincts kicking in. The crowd holds its breath, everyone anticipating another escalation. But instead of charging in, the officer addresses the senior officer with an unexpected question. "Did you get his name?" The senior officer's face falls. it's a moment of realization. The backup officer knows that everything about this encounter has been mishandled, that the situation could have ended much worse for them. And with the backup arriving just in time, the reality of the officer's mistakes starts to sink in. The younger officer, sensing the growing awkwardness, clears his throat. "It's over, right?" he asks, his voice betraying his relief. The senior officer doesn't answer. Instead, he just shakes his head slowly, defeated as he looks back at the man walking away. The man turns for a brief moment, a faint smile playing at the corner of his mouth. And just before disappearing around the corner, he calls out, "Make sure you know." As the man disappears into the distance, the officers remain standing, their silence speaking volumes. The backup squad, who had been ready to step in, now stands awkwardly, unsure of what to make of the situation. The senior officer, still processing the interaction, shoots one last look at his partner, who can barely meet his gaze. They both know that what just happened isn't going to disappear quietly. For the man, this wasn't just about winning an argument. It was about standing up for his rights and reminding everyone that the First Amendment matters. His calmness, his knowledge of the law, and his refusal to be intimidated turned what could have been a routine stop into a powerful moment of accountability. As the crowd slowly disperses, they're left reflecting on what they just witnessed. Not just a man asserting his rights, but a reminder of the power of education and peaceful resistance. The officers may have walked away from this one, but the lesson is far from over. And the next time they encounter someone who knows their rights, things may play out very differently.